All right, so welcome and evening to our amazing, this will be, well, I think it is, amazing live webinar for you to be able to create your epic lesson plans. And I'm Helen Hughes. A few of you have been active on the Swim Education Facebook page already, so quite a few of you know who I am and a little bit about my background. But I will, sharing with you my swim teaching journey just very briefly. Like you, I am also a swimming teacher. I have been doing this for a number of years. So I am not a presenter. I am more comfortable in the pool than I am anywhere else. But the reason for this webinar tonight, I thought it would be great for you as swimming teachers and for swim school owners that you may be possibly searching and interested in wanting to create your own innovative and have fresh ideas for your swim lessons. All right, so I will be going through some examples of what I do in my sessions. I actually call them sessions, not lessons. And they are very easy to understand, and the children and the parents thoroughly enjoy what I offer them. Then I will also go through and I'll give you my formula as to what and how I create my lessons to make them epic. So I'll also explain what epic means in a moment too. So let's get cracking. Okay, welcome to you all, as I said, so thank you very much for being here. Okay, so you might be feeling at this moment in time, especially during this very uncertain, weird time they're experiencing, you might be feeling fearful. You might be feeling frustrated or concerned or confused. You've been researching endlessly and you just can't find what you're looking for. And there is so much information out there, it's unbelievable. Your heart is racing as you feel that you are drowning with loads of information. You're bombarded with so many options and you're really struggling with what to know or what to do for the best. So you go off and you try and find this inspiration and you come across possibly some lesson plans like this. And I don't know about you, but this absolutely blows my mind, and I've been teaching for 27 years. So with these lesson plans, you've got topics, you've got aims of lesson, you've got lesson objectives, you've got assumed prior knowledge, you've got assessments, differentiation, timing, reflection, oh my goodness, and all these different things in this lesson plan and you can see it's in 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, 3 minutes here, and it's just absolutely crazy. Now on top of that, you also have your family life to manage. You have to remember your normal everyday stuff, and you also have your deadlines in your personal life. And quite simply, you're exhausted. But don't worry, because I have the solution, and I think that you will be excited to see what I have on offer tonight. So this is little Pippa, and she always makes a smile. So I hope she's put a smile on your face tonight because she's adorable. All right, so I am Helen Hughes, and I just wanted to give you a bit of a background just to, give you an insight as to my journey. So this is my husband, Gary, my son, Harry, and my beautiful sister here, who is also the co-founder or the co-owner of Mini Water Adventurers. And I'm hoping that she is our moderator tonight. I didn't see her earlier, but I'm hoping that she's there tonight for me or for us. So where and what have I been doing during this 27 years? So I was actually a competitive swimmer when I was in my early years. When I was old enough to want to become a swim teacher, and it does show my age now, I did my qualification through the ASA back in the day. Fast forward a couple of years, I've actually graduated, and I'm a sports science graduate. And I also am a qualified teacher from the University of Oxford. I was then a sports science lecturer, and then we actually moved to Florida, where my first swim school started, and that was in 2006. And we were there for a good 10 years, which was fantastic. So I actually was a mobile swim school at first, and then we actually built a pool in our back garden of where I was then I actually transitioned to be a home-based swim school. I became a mum and we actually moved back to the UK in 2016. And this and I was lucky enough to be a stay-at-home mum. And a couple of years later after that, then Little Fish, Big Fish actually was created in 2019. Now, we actually did a little bit of an update of our swim school, and we sort of rebranded, if you like. And so in the middle of halfway of 2019, that was when Mini Water Adventurers Swim School started. And I've actually designed what's called the Orca Swim Trainer, and I will briefly mention about that throughout to see where it fits within the swim program. So that's in a couple of minutes of what 27 years looks like. So I'd like you to welcome to through, because during our lockdown, for the last couple of months, I've actually been really quite resourceful with my time. And I know many of you have been going on lots of courses, and you've been really sort of picking up lots of different educational courses, hence why you're coming onto the webinar tonight. And this is where I've actually put all my knowledge and understanding about swimming into what we have called the Purposeful Play Swim Program. Now there are 4 zones, and tonight, looking into our epic swimming lessons, it actually fits into one of these zones. Right, and I'll briefly go into these in a little bit later on. So these 4 zones actually break down into sensory, water, interaction, and movement. All right, so you can see there that not only are we thinking and looking about how to structure our skill set lessons for the age groups. Now I teach ages 3 months to 7 years. So when my children start with me and they go through my program, I have 7 levels, so level 1 through to 7, and all of my levels incorporate every single zone, and I'll explain what this means. So those are the 4 zones. Now the epic activities actually fits into my water zone. And what I do is I create a play area of joy. So not only is the pool, not just an area to learn to swim, but I'm actually using that as, if you like, an aquatics type of learning environment. So not only are we going through all the individual skill sets, we're actually doing it in a way of where it is epic. All right. So how do we make this epic kit bag? First off, though, I have to explain, what do I mean by epic? So epic actually stands for explore, play, investigate, and create. This slide explains to you how then the epic fits into the swim zones. So within my swimming lessons, I try and hit all 4 of these different elements to ensure that it's a fun and engaging swimming environment. So with the explore, I do the different activities that enable the child to experiment and explore wildly. So I'm very much, which is, quite a bit of a buzzword these days, never used to be back in the day, but it's actually very much to child-led. So I will, with the parent in the water with me up until ages 4, we are very much working together as a parent or grandparent to ensure that we're following the lead of the young child. In my 6-week workshop, which I have, which I'll go through in a little bit, I actually go into a lot of detail as to why this is really important based on child development, that we are child-led. Now, the play part of this is obviously making sure that the children and the parents are enjoying themselves. And don't forget you as well as a teacher, okay? Because if you're enjoying it at the same time, that means that the children are feeding off you as a teacher. Now, my sessions are very much age related, and within each level, which I'll explain in a little bit, I do have a sort of a 3-tier between each level. So in my 6-week program, I talk about the power of play, and this goes into more detail with regards to letting the child, as I mentioned, you know, being free and in the water and allowing them to have that time to really explore in the water and find out things by themselves, which leads into the investigate. A child learns through trial and error, and we can do this in the water as well, as long as it's obviously in a safe environment. So I will actually step back, and then the part of the sensory, in fact into the interaction, and I go into this into my 6-week program, is that we look at the powerful communication, and power stands for something. So that enables us to actually step back and allow the child and the parent to really embrace that time in the water, which means that the child will learn this skill set even more so. What you're also enabling to do is that you're creating these amazing memories for these children. So they remember, especially if the parent is either there in the water with them or whether they are sat on poolside, you are creating these amazing memories that they will then later on in life will remember, and it's almost like a story that you're building. So this is why we're called Mini Water Adventurers, because you are creating an environment of where these children are going on adventures. So think of it, every single lesson that a child and you are creating this open or this live storybook. I actually go into, and excuse me, that should be actually using the 8 senses, because we do go through in the sensory, the multi-sensory approach, that we actually go through. I talk about the 8 senses. So I thought that was really important for you to see where it fits. So some of you may have received my email with the questionnaire. Now, some people found it a little bit tricky, so I do apologize with that. But this enabled for you to see what made you authentic. You may already know what style of teacher you like to be, but there's also seeing that you can actually mold to the situation that you're put in, especially in this time that we're in. We have to mold to the situation in order for us to keep going. And in a positive way, of course. So what makes you authentic? So the questionnaire should hopefully have come up with these 6 different types of teaching. I'm not going to go through them tonight because it would have given you some, you know, description as to what each one of them are. Some of you, which I was actually a few of them, because I do small groups, older children, all ages, and I also do one-to-ones as well. So of course, depending on what you enjoy doing, will actually probably fit into the type of teacher that you are. So how I'm an authentic teacher is how I bring these epic lesson plans. It is becoming more and more sort of familiar now into the world of swimming about bringing these type of styles of lessons, but I still feel that I bring even more to it. So let's give you an example as to what I call the bones of it. What do I do, and what are my session plans that I use in my swimming lessons? And this really helps me, sorry, I'll go back. And this really helps me to make everything very simple. I'm all about simplicity, and I'm all about keeping that kit bag full of things that I can draw from all the time. So I have my very simple session plan, and then I have all my activities and my props and everything that I pull and draw out every time that I want to use a theme. So I'll go through this in a little bit. I have over 45 different themes that I pick that I want to do depending on the cohort of swimmers that come through. Maybe you're finding that certain children, you might find that they're really into certain things, so you can bring those out. So it's making sure that you have that toolkit or your epic bag ready so that you can use this bones of it session plan. So I'm going to give you an example of what I do in my swimming sessions. I'm also going to give you some examples about what I do for my group action songs. And I'm a really bad singer, but I actually do sing quite a lot. I do a welcome song every session, and that starts off our lesson, which means sometimes if you have some people that are a little bit late, then enables them to have that time just to, you know, take their breaths to get back into the water and get ready for their lessons. I also do between 2 and 3 action songs in the water where they're warming up and they're using the certain swim skill sets, but we're putting words to it in a fun and an engaging way. And again, I have probably between the 45 themes that I have again in my epic bag, I have between 5 and 6 songs that I can pick and draw from when I want to. The skill set activities and stations are depending on my schematic play, and I have quite, and especially now at this particular time, I think we've got to be creative with a station. So if we've got different activity, or sorry, if we're using certain equipment, depending on the themes that we're using, try and think about how we can use different stations around the outside of the pool to enable our skill sets to go ahead. So we're using these in order to, you know, to make sure that the children are getting out what they need to get out, but you're also doing it in a purposeful way. Now, as I mentioned previously, our levels are between 1 and 7. So by the time that they have graduated from level 7, they will be doing full IMs. So they're doing all 4 strokes. So we start off at 3 months old. Some parents wish to start earlier, but I generally start at 3 months old because the strength of the neck for the child is much greater, as you know. Time-wise, and I'm still going to do this no matter what, I'm determined. Level 1, which is the babies between 3 months and 12, I do the 30 minutes. However, for levels 2 to 7, I do 45 minutes. I do not do the traditional 30 minutes. So it may be something you might think of if you're a swim school owner, because this really enables them to get into their session, and you then as a teacher are not feeling so rushed, because of course we have this list of things that they need to be doing. However, we seem to go through them pretty quickly. So that extra time actually enables us and them to really get into an activity. I don't know about you, but from my experience, sometimes it takes a child a little bit of time to get into it. So this enables that little bit of extra time for them. So the location of where we will be teaching. Some of you may be feeling better or more comfortable teaching poolside now. You might not want to be putting the face masks on or the visors and go into the water. And of course, we're not allowed to be touching per se with them. Now, for me, I'm an extremely hands-on teacher, even with the older ones. If they are struggling with a certain skill, I get them out and I help them with their movements, which unfortunately we can't do these days. So the way that we communicate is going to have to be really effective in order to get what we're trying to achieve across to them. Now, the location of our teaching, if we're standing poolside, I use, which this picture actually shows really nicely, these little sort of puzzles, if you like, when they stick to the side of the pool, or I use, you know, like you know, here used like unicorns or whatever, to place on and around poolside, so you can use those as guidance. So you're now going to swim to the star, and then you're going to swim to the shooting star. So it enables them to visualize where and what they need to be doing. Now, if they need to be staying in certain zones in the water, again, you can enable, maybe put cones on the end of where they need to be staying within the red cone, yellow cone, or whatever you need to do if they need to be staying in their little zone areas. And that's when the stations also come in handy, because you have different stations set around the outside, especially with the parent and me, of where they can use those toys, play with them, have them in the water, and then you can put them back, and then obviously you can soak them ready for the next lesson. All right. So these are what I call the bones of its swim plans. I do obviously have 7, but I haven't put them all up. I have posted these on the Facebook page, so you might have to scroll back because they've been coming on sporadically over the time. So all 7 are on there, and there are ones which I'll go into in a little bit, of where there are examples of activities. Now, they're only examples of one, whereas I have loads of them. So it just gives you a brief snippet as to what I do. Now, the most important for me to tell you here is that I do not put timings. And the reason why I don't put timings is because we might stay on our front kicking for a very long time if they wish to keep going and they're engrossed in the activity that you've designed for that particular lesson, or they might just want to continue on their back the whole lesson. So so what I'm trying to achieve is to open your mindset as a swimming teacher to actually enable that learning process to go on. So don't be too worried about the timing of your lessons. So when we go through how to create these epic lesson plans, bear in mind that if you are providing them a fantastic learning environment using all these cool things, let them get into it. Let them really getting engrossed into what they're doing, because essentially if a child is moving, they're learning. And again, I go into this into my my workshop in the memory and movement section under the M, the swim. We go through why it's really important to keep our swimmers moving, because if they're moving, they're learning, like I said. So there is no, and I'll go into what I use as the swim Orca, is that if they keep moving, no matter what they're doing, they're not sitting on poolside. So they're feeling about what they're needing to be doing in the water. Even with the older ones, I keep them moving for the whole 45 minutes. There is absolutely no time that they're sat and waiting their turn, unless they are doing some independent swims of where they have to swim to me, where they have taken their Orca swim trainer off, or they're waiting their turn if they need help to be able to do their, they've decided to do their submersions under the water and they're needing a little bit of assistance with that. That's the only time of where I keep them in their safe zone by the stairs, or if you have a platform for them to stay there, but they're literally there for a couple of minutes. They are moving the whole time. And that's why our swim program enables a swimmer to be extremely strong and confident in the water. And they're very independent because we teach them how to think for themselves. So here you can see the progressions of what and how they do throughout the age group. So by my level 7, they are 7. So my mission again is to make sure that by the time that they are 7, they are fully equipped with each of the 4 strokes. And we do life-saving skills. We do some type of, we do a lot of treading water. We do a lot to ensure that they keep their strength going. So I mentioned before about the Orca swim trainer, and I do go into this into a little bit more detail in my 6-week workshop, but I also will be doing a webinar. I have said it before that I will be doing it, but I will do it just to explain to you. Now, I have seen a couple of posts over the couple of weeks about what type of training aid to use in the water. Now, the sort of kit that I use are noodles, and you'll see in this picture just at the back there's the yellow one with, and I have like little handles on, because our noodles are all types of different vehicles, and there enables them to be able to move and maneuver in the water. If they don't like being in that, then of course I take that connection off. However, our Orca swim trainer is amazing. Now, this is specifically designed for 18 months to 5 years old. Now, some have graduated the 9 float process earlier than 5 years old, but it's there for children that have started my swim program later on. This provides a perfect all-in-one learn to swim aid, which is actually from paddler to the confident swimmer. So this is used through 80% or 85% of the lesson. So this enables them to really get to have a feel about how and where they're moving. So really focusing on their paddling and their kicking, their breath control, but enables to give them that enough buoyancy to stay up in the water without making them, become tired easily, or I don't know about you, but they don't do this type of motion as they're trying to swim across, because they're trying to keep their head up as they're trying to take that breath, bless them, and then it takes ages for them to get their heads down. And some of them don't even want to put their face down, because then they do this type of motion. So this really helps that child and gives them that time and space to really learn and move in the water. And like I said, I'm not going to talk about this too much, but I just wanted to just explain to you that this is what I use in my lessons. And this is being tried and tested for a full year, all of 2019, and they are being manufactured currently. So I've just picked level 4 as an example. I do use this or something similar in order to have as a list where I can put all my songs on and all my different activities according to the skill set for that level. So picking the level 4, for example, doing the warm-up on water confidence, and that would be the action songs that I use. And then the front kicking, which is the go-get game, which I'll explain in a little bit, is a lot of the front kicking, but they're using all the toys and things that you've put in the lessons. Now, I use a schematic activity skill set, which we go into as well as a multisensory approach, which I go into in my 6-week workshop in even more detail, and also the water confidence games and things like that. So I don't know about you, but I have a nice set of stairs as to where I'm able to use either as a safe zone, or I'm able to use as a different area where they're being independent in the water. So that's where the water confident games comes from, and even from the younger ones as well with the parents, you're able to then enable the parent to have the child on the stairs, so that the parent is then learning to give them that space to enable them to sit and play with whatever you've got there. And again, they're learning a lot. So they're learning about spatial awareness. They're looking at if they fall this way, they need to move back this way. Okay, if I move forward, they're learning everything about their body, which is really important, of course, as you know. And throughout the lessons, throughout those individual sort of sections of the lesson, I am open, very open as to what the child would like to do. So I have, some swimmers that are autistic, and they particularly like to do very much, stuff under the water. So we try and, accommodate him. So we give him activities to help him, get what he's needing to get. And as you know, other children that are specifically getting bored, if you like, they don't get bored in my lesson because they don't have time to. And if they're saying that they need to get out and go to the toilet, or they're giving any of these excuses, then this enables them not to have that. What else do I want to say? The safety skills here, I have safety skill 1 and safety skill 2, which means that we're teaching them that if they fall in, to always come back to the side. I have yet to find another swimming teacher that actually does it, advises them to stand to the side instead of standing in front. If you stand in front of the child will, no matter what, want to jump to you. And if you're standing to the side and you've put, again, one of your little ducks or whatever you have, you know, whatever they particularly enjoyed playing with, you put on the side and they turn around and come back to it. And again, I can go into these type of things again in more detail, because I'm conscious of taking too much time of you guys today. But I generally have them sitting first, and then when they get more comfortable, I don't force them to stand up if they don't want to. I also have even ages 6 that really don't want to jump in. So I'm okay, you don't have to jump in, but you do have to show me if you're getting in, get in safely. And they just drop themselves, you know, they just turn around and get in by themselves and climb out. Now, I don't know how many of you have been teaching for a number of years, but I have noticed over the years that the child's motor skills aren't as good as they were in previous years. So swimming is one of the most important activities that we can help that child increase their motor, their motor skills. In my workshop, I go through very briefly about the different motor skills, the fine and gross motor. And when I start my squad membership, we'll actually have a psychomotor therapist that will come on and explain in more detail about what else that we can offer to help these children. But pretty much what I do, because she was actually in my swimming lessons, she agreed with what I did in my lessons was actually, you know, really good with helping children. I find that a lot of children now can't climb up and out by themselves, especially if you have a gap from the water to the side. They are unable to push themselves up and out. So if I see that, I'm a little bit cruel to be kind, so I do actually get them to climb out quite a bit, just to enable them to get, you know, the upper body strength that is needed in swimming anyway. And I do quite a lot of what's called monkey crawls 1 week, or crab crawls, or whatever you choose to call them. I'm sure you're familiar with those. We've played games of cat and mouse and all sorts, where they're holding on and they're chasing each other around the pool. You know, lots of different things to also focus for the little ones about the upper body strength, because I feel that we spend a lot of time focusing on their kicking, but not necessarily with their upper body in different modes to help them. Also with the arms, I have them sitting, which I'm sure you probably do, having them sitting on the noodles. So you've got it either side. So they're horses, or they could be motorbikes, or they're all sorts of different things that you could use. I've tied them up and put handles, so they do their handlebars. They can play tag in the water. You know, they're using their arms to get faster and things like that. They're also learning to do more of a cycling action in the water, which is okay because they're using different muscles in their legs. So it's actually a really good activity for them to do. Now for the back, I do not force a child to go on their back. It's not part of my program of where they have to learn to turn onto their back for survival, because I feel that it's actually a hindrance to some children if you do force them on their back, whereas there are some that absolutely loves it. So again, I roll with the child. If they absolutely hate it and they don't want to go on their back, that's no problem. Of course, we try every week. I'm not saying that we completely ignore it, but we do keep going and keep persevering, but only for a very short amount of time. The time to go on here that I have, the child, when they're older, they can choose what they want to do. this helps with them to start getting to be mindful that it's the end of the lesson and they're ready to go. I don't know if you've experienced it, but I have a really hard time getting my kids out of the pool and I have to drag them out. So this enables them to know that this is the time for them to go. So they have chosen what they wanted. They've enabled, well, in fact, they choose most of the lesson, but this is the time of where they can sit and play with small world toys if they want to. They can play with the water confidence toys. Or they can do some diving down, they can do some, I mean, the jumps normally we do all together anyway, but that is their choice. So I tend to have almost like a little basket of stuff that they can choose from, especially with the younger ones, with the parent and me. I'll go through this in my workshop, but I have a little discovery sensory type of basket that we use and things like that. With the little ones as well, just to give you sort of an idea, the Europeans use this quite a lot, especially in France. They do a lot of parent and me swimming. I love the turtle and me. They get on your backs and you can swim with them, especially with the younger ones. They absolutely love this, and this helps them to start learning to hold on to you, because I do transition them through of where you are holding on to them. Then you transition them across to actually them holding on to you rather than you holding on to them. So it gives them that situation of that trial and error that we were talking about, in that they're starting to think for themselves that, yes, I need help, but I need to find somebody, I need to find that person that's of course always there, but you're using that, they have to find you to hold on. The other thing's really nice is when you're actually lying on your back and the child is learning on, is lying on you, and it's actually extremely peaceful. It's lovely and it's so nice. And again, I'll talk about the powerful communication in the workshop of how it's nice, and that bonding, that interaction that you have with your child. Of course, for the older ones, you can have them doing their star floats and things like that, just to have a nice, calm, peaceful part of the lesson, because most of it is quite sort of hectic in a fun way. But this then helps them just to, you know, come back down and just chill out, ready for the next bit. And I always do the same goodbye song, no matter what. And I do signing with that. Now with the younger ones, I do sign. I do so every theme that I have, I will have a couple of signs relative to that theme. So fish, shark, you've got, oh, how you see it, turtle, I don't know how to do that backwards. There you go, turtle. And all sorts of different things, which will also find very useful now, because if you have to be at a certain distance from a child or you are poolside, learning sign language is going to help you, because they, especially if they're going up and under, and you're having to get their attention, then at least that type of communication is going to help you, and it's going to save your voice for sure. Just to point off here that in around about 0.6, where after their water confidence games, that's when I take this swim Orca off and they are swimming without it. Okay, so we've done all the hard work and then they're putting it into practice. So going into a couple of the different themes that I have a pirate theme, and this is an example of the different things that I use. And the songs, again, are action songs and used relative to the activity or the skill set that you want it to have it allocated to. I use a lot of puzzles, especially for the older ones, because puzzles they just absolutely love, especially the older ones. They like to go off together and collect and make them together. As I go through in my 6-week workshop, we go through schematic play, and that will explain to you as to why I choose what I choose. And there's a reason for all these different sort of elements here. So that's a pirate theme. Then this is an example of my sort of monster out of this world style space theme. And again, I've used puzzles here that you can, and I'll show you how to create our epic bag in a minute, what I do to get all these ideas, which I'll explain a little bit. But I've done all the hard work for you. I spent all these years finding and putting all this together. So actually, you know, the swim program would be perfect for you. So this is the monster theme, and I use a lot of sensory style toys and things, so spiky, round, move, so it actually fits well for the younger ones, but then you can also use for the older ones, because who doesn't like to go and collect a ball and put it in a basket or whatever you've got for them to collect it in. And these monster feet are an absolute hit. They think it's hilarious. So here's another couple of examples that I do, and again I go into more detail as the multi-sensory approach in my 6-week workshop, creating different sort of ways that we can use the different levels of the water. So this is again my space theme of using an educational tool where they're learning their planets as well. And you can't really see too much around this pool, but there's lots of things dotted around. They've probably all collected them in and then they put them to the side for me. But so I do use little platforms, you know, the floats there. I use those a lot, that I throw in the water close to the end, so they have their time then that they can sit on. They're climbing up and on, and they can play a little bit with what they've chosen to play with. Now normally there is somebody, you can see their little shadows there. There is a child there doing his puzzle, and the mum is there as well. So he didn't actually want to sit up there, which is absolutely fine, but they would move around together and they can move the float, or if they're sat on it, the mum is either, or the dad is sitting, is kicking it along with them, so they're moving around, so it helps with their balance. So tapping into those sensory of the body awareness and body movement. So they're learning to increase their core strength when they're on the float, which again is another way of increasing their strength, you know, all over. On the other side, I think was my spring / bug type theme, where I found the bugs and the ladybirds are actually toothbrush holders. And I use the little holders for them to go and collect and things. They're using their pincers. So any learning opportunity which will help them in their school environment, I will also use in the pool to help them. The balls were actually pollen, so they went to go and collect pollen. So we had a little bit of a science lesson as well, which was great. And they were able to water the plants if they wanted to, and they could pretend to be a little flower to grow. So you can, like I said, you're bringing in this adventure, this journey, this live storybook. Now, a while ago, I did post, well, in fact, I posted a few videos as to examples of what I have done on the pool. So you will see from those videos that I have placed certain things around the outside of the pool in a particular place for a certain reason. Here's just a couple more examples. Like I said, this mum here on the left, which I hope it's your left, the little girl sitting on the float, this mum was absolutely petrified of the water, and she didn't want her child to feel the same way. So you won't see it here, but in this pool, half of the pool was actually shallow, and then unfortunately it went down in the middle and then went up, but around the outside you could actually walk around. For the first couple of lessons, she only kept her daughter in the shallow end because she was so scared to go through the middle of the water. However, I took the little girl and I was able to go off and help her out. She wanted to sort of explore more. But I did move the toys or whatever she was interested in down So then her mum was enjoying herself and she felt more comfortable where she was. But then also the little girl was also having and gaining her, you know, she was getting out of it as much as she could as well. Now, it probably only took her maybe about halfway through, I call them blocks. I don't know what you call them, but I call them blocks of lessons. And I actually do between 5 and 8 weeks, and that's my block sessions. I don't do 10 or 12. But about halfway through, she then started coming out, and her child, you know, little girl, Alicia, she was so elated that her mum was able to move with her. So they're learning together. This is the only activity of where a parent and a child is at the same level. They can get down together. So when you're doing what I call the pass hold, or you're doing the face-to-face hold, they are eye to eye, no matter what. When you as a teacher with the older ones and you're in the water with them, you are at their level. You are down. You're seeing what they are seeing, and that's the most important thing. And of course, you know, you test all these activities out, which is really fun, to make sure that, of course, it's something worthwhile to use. Otherwise, you just bin it and you just do another theme that you've picked. In this picture here, I think it was probably my construction theme. This mum absolutely loved all the props. I think she enjoyed it more than her daughter. But she enjoyed, I've had flowers where they put them in their hair, they've had daisies, they've had all sorts of things, and you know, they love putting these you know, you're making that extra touch for them. There's a couple of water confident toys there. So the little dolphin there, the wheel moves round. So for the little ones, they love that type of thing. It's, you know, going into their senses of the sight. They love pouring in the water and watching the tummy going. The octopus, I don't know if you've seen it, it actually rotates round. So somebody that's in a rotation schema, they love watching it go round. So all these type of things you're tapping into to ensure that the child is getting out what they need to get out and not just learning to swim. So how do I put all of this together? You've got all these great ideas, but how do you put these together? Or how have I put them together? So it's just loading up. So I go through this long-winded process, or I have done, it's all been done now. But I will go through this process of where I go onto Pinterest, I go onto YouTube. I obviously, because my son, we have loads of children's books and obviously children's series themes. Then you know, of course, we get other, hence why you're on tonight, we get other examples or ideas from other swimming and teachers. Also, what I look at is other dry land franchises. So what do, say, Music Mamas do, or what does Sing Along Sign do, or, you know, what does Baby Sensory offer? So all these type of things I look into, and then how can I then translate that into the water? It can be done because I've done it. You just got to be very creative of how to do these type of things and what's relative and what you can use in the water. Then I find, so I've got all my ideas from looking at all those different places. You've then tweaked them to be able to have in the aquatic world, so in water. Then you go and find them. So all what I need is I go to Facebook Marketplace, I look at eBay, go to charity shops. I also get my ideas off Amazon as well. So I also do have quite a bit of a hefty bill, Amazon. And I also look at, I don't know if any of you have these around your area, but the mum-to-mum markets. So with all these different themes that I have, that's how I've created all these different ideas, and then I've put them into my kit bag. So basically, a simple formula. You've got all your ideas that you've got together. Now you've got all your equipment, and of course you've got your Orca swim trainer because it enables them to move. This means that you have your amazing fun activities. And this was my disco date theme. We had a disco, we had party hats and glasses and all sorts of different fun things. So you've got your fun activities. A child is not just learning to swim, but you're enabling to have this amazing, playground of fun, this amazing play area of joy. Why does it have to stop when they walk through the door, that they get onto poolside, and that you've got this long list of skill sets they have to do, and that's all they're going to be doing? Let's do it. They're children. Let's make sure that we are opening their world up for them to love and have these epic lessons. So we are then inspiring our children. We're inspiring also our swimming teachers, if you're a swim school owner, and you're also inspiring yourself, because once you're engrossed in the swimming lesson, they will be engrossed. They're going to enjoy themselves, and you want them to stay with you throughout the process. You don't want them to go and find another swim school. You want them to stay with you. Now this little boy, he's called Harry. My son's also called Harry, but this Harry had me in stitches the whole lesson. He was absolutely hilarious. This was my dinosaur theme, and he took this dinosaur everywhere with him that lesson. It was his buddy the whole lesson. But do you know what? At the end of the lesson, he remembered what he was doing because he had fun, and his little buddy, his little dinosaur that he took with him, enabled him to have fun in that lesson. And you're providing them, or you are getting, or you're creating your innovative ideas. So what else can you use that you use poolside, but you can bring them into the water? Now, it's not a case of you just having loads and loads of toys, because you might find that a parent will say, well, you've got so much poolside, and they're getting really, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's just too much going on. Well, you can use everything that you have as a driving force. If they're not necessarily interested in everything, there will be something that they're particularly interested in, and the parent just hasn't found what drives them in particular. So that's why at the beginning of the lesson, I will always say to them, go off and explore first, enjoy and see what the theme is all about. We're going to come back and do our action song, and then the work begins. And unfortunately, scientists have shown that by the age of 7, our creativity juices have gone, which means that, oh no, what's happened to us as adults? Well, unfortunately, yes, our creativity has diminished as we've got older. So that's why going back to a childlike way will help you in the water to go to their level. So we're being child friendly and seeing from a child's perspective. So think of different things like this one here. I didn't have a puzzle for this, so I made it. And it was from foam, which is great, it's in the water. And I created using other different types of sensories. So you have the little puffy balls there, and there were some other different things that I put on, but they actually created a weather map. So you're able then there's again another learning objective from that lesson. So not only are they going to kick to go and collect what they need to get, but they're also putting the pieces together, and you're talking about it, you're having that bonding interaction with them. There are so many different elements that are coming together just from being in this creative way. That's what makes you unique. And this is why you have parents and children that are happy and have enjoyed themselves, and they will keep coming back because you're providing your USP. You know what style of teacher that you are, because most of you have done your questionnaire, and you may have already know, because you have been teaching for a while, what makes you different from everybody else. There is thousands of swimming teachers out there, and ultimately we have the same goal. We want the children to learn to swim in a fun and safe way, yes, but what else can we provide in our swimming lessons that gives you that edge? Why could you be even more unique than what you are? Because you are unique already, because you're amazing at what you do, but how can you make that next step even more so? And ultimately, don't know about you, but if they're happy, I'm happy. And their faces, you know, make it for me. This little girl here, she didn't want to move off the step. She really didn't want to go anywhere. She was horrified of the water, and I think the mum was, again, unfortunately, she was herself, but she was still unable, because I used this little Bailey. I used Bailey to go and get stuff for her. So he was ultimately using his skill set, and he would bring them back for her to make and do what she wanted to do on the step. Unfortunately, by the time that coronavirus hit, we weren't able to have any more lessons together. But she was in the water, but unfortunately she didn't come out. But at least we were keeping her, you know, interactive and engaged in the lesson as well, to try and help her, start relaxing in the water and you know, open those gates up for her. This was actually my Christmas theme, and it was Santa's workshop, and they were little elves, and they had to go off and go and collect things for Santa, little toys that they had around the outside that they were collecting and that they were wrapping. So and they actually really enjoyed that. So I'm going to be really brief here, because I know I've taken up a lot of your time. So thank you for those that are still going with me. Is everyone okay? I've not talked too much. Feel as though I'm just rambling on here, but no, it's all good stuff though, right? So what's next? There's always something next. There's always something that I will be able to give to you. So like I mentioned to you at the beginning and throughout, I do offer a 6-week workshop. And we have just finished our first bit of we have finished our 6-week workshop for the last couple of months. And I will, you know, keep going with a couple of these throughout the year. Especially at this time, I think it's really great and a fantastic opportunity for us to, you know, to keep going and learning. I never stop learning, even though I've been doing this for 27 years. And I always learn, no matter what, from you guys, from anybody. I'm open to anything. So our Purposeful Play Swim Program workshop will actually cover these 6 elements. So if you're looking to want to know a little bit more, because of course I can only give you so much tonight, but we will actually look into these 6 different elements. So the first week we do look at knowing how a child learns, because it's really important how a child learns, not just what they are learning, which makes a huge impact in your lessons. We go through more examples about how we can do powerful communication, and powerful stands for pause, observe, wait, encourage, and then react. And this enables you to build that trusted relationship. And the power of play is really effective, because this is where we're really getting into the nitty-gritty of how we can fill that child's jar of joy. Then the memory and the movement, we go through how to understand and why the body is that moving tool of learning. And the multisensory approach. So how can we tap into your imagination and creative mindset to design purposeful lessons? So all of these, there's always the science part of why I've chosen to do what we do. So I haven't just said these are my ideas and go for it. There's a reason why, and that's what I explain, which is what the connecting the dots between the science and the swimming. So how can we ensure that our lessons are so much more than just learning to swim? So at the end of these 6 weeks, this will give you even more ideas as to how you can create. Now, it is a workshop, it's not a lecture. So it will be as interactive as you want it to be. So I do little mini missions, and those mini missions enables you to put what we do each week into action. And they're fun if you wish to take the mission, if you wish to accept the mission that I do. Some people would rather do some questions, which I put at the end. But it's, I found it an amazing 6 weeks. I've gained lifelong friends from this workshop, and we will be keeping in touch. So it's a case of you know, building relationships with you as a swimming teacher and a swim school owner, and at the same time I'm enabling to provide you with as much information as I can give you. So this the link at the bottom, hopefully if Catherine is on, if she could copy and paste that and put that onto the comments section if anybody is interested in that 6-week workshop. Like I mentioned in the slide before, does go through, those were the 6 weeks, those were the 6 weeks content sessions. There is going to be one day of where there's a content session, and that is no more than an hour. And I only stay on for an hour because there are some questions at the end when I go live. So if you wish to come on live and stay at the end, then that's why, and it's no more than an hour. And then I also come live, what's called a live lounge, during the week, as to where I'm always there every week for 1 hour between 12 and 1, for when you can come on and you can ask me anything. So whatever, if it's anything specific to the content session that we'd spoken about, or if you are back at teaching and you have a particular question about something, or you're doing another qualification and you're stuck with this, that and the other, then please, I'm here to be able to offer that advice. So that's an extra bonus of the 6-week workshop if anyone wants to do that. Oh, there's a line on there. Did I do that? Don't know why there's a yellow line on there, but okay. So just to show, to let you know that it was real, and there were real people on here. Every single person loved what we were doing. These are just a few testimonials. Everybody recommends it, and they found it thoroughly enjoyable. And I don't just look at, I do look at the holistic approach. And as I think this was Karen's, be prepared for some creative interactive homework. I'm not one for giving out homework, but that's the mini missions. So and there is some science behind it. So if you already know some of child development, then you know it's either going over some information that you already know, or you're learning a lot, no matter what. So I will put those testimonials on the page so you can have a read. So you're probably asking, how much is this? So for the 6 weeks only, for the 6 weeks, it's only £49, which I think is an absolute bargain. And every person did say they had value for money, if not more. So it will be £49. I do normally put it up after 24 hours, but I think everybody is in a tight spot right now. You know, we've got to be, you know, careful with our money, and I totally get it. But it is absolutely worth the 45. Well, it's worth the £69. But I'm giving this offer to you, and you will also, once you've signed up, I will send you 2 free epic lesson plans, and you will have 2 printable song sheets per theme. So these free epic plans are 2 themes, and you do get 2 songs per theme that you can just print off, laminate, and you're ready to go. And then for those themes, you have a list of props and equipment that I have used for those themes to give you ideas as to how to structure those lessons. So that is free. So that alone is actually worth £15. So within that, you're already getting a huge saving. So So I think I have something to leave you with, so you can read this. So I think this is really important. So, because children grow up, we think a child's purpose is to grow up. But actually, a child's purpose is to be a child. And that's why our swim program and these epic lesson plans enables a child to be a child. So, thank you. I think I've been talking for over an hour. So, I'm going to say thank you, and I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to open up the floor. Now, please ask me any questions. This is the time of communication. If you wish to ask anything, then please go. Please ask away. So I'm going to stop sharing.